Hello and welcome to this maths training video. Now in this video we're going to be looking at the pretty significant change that's going to be taking place on my channel over the coming weeks and months. We're just about to head into the summertime slump, so lots of exams have now been completed. People aren't worrying too much about doing their electrical exams at the moment, which means I'm going to spend the next few weeks going over some of the essential maths content that needs to be covered for the various electrical syllabuses that I cover. Now this will be where we start moving into additional areas of maths, going beyond the electrical maths element that we look at on my channel. We'll start looking at some engineering maths as well, but all that's a little bit further down the line. For this video, what I wanted to just talk about was the recommended calculator that I suggest you use for the electrical training courses that you'll be doing, whether that's City and Guilds, whichever path you're on, whether you're doing an apprenticeship, you're doing the 5357 or the 2365, or whether you're doing the 8202, whichever one you're doing. This is not the calculator that I would recommend that you use. Now for many people, you'll look at this calculator and it'll give you a little wave of nostalgia, because this may well be the calculator that you use to get you through your GCSEs. However, this calculator has now been discontinued. So this is the one that I've recommended for a long time. This is my old Casio fx-83GT Plus. Of course, there's also the fx-85GT Plus available as well. And this is the calculator that you'll have seen on my channel. I featured it an awful lot, and it's certainly doesn't owe me anything. So we've been using this for a long time. However, it's discontinued. Casio no longer make this calculator. It is still available to buy on Amazon, but it's somewhere in the ridiculous price bracket of something like about £40 for the calculator or something, which makes me suspect that actually that's some kind of money laundering scam rather than an official Amazon deal. So we've now moved on and we're now looking at this. Now this is my brand new Casio fx-85GTX. Now you can see I sprang for the extra £1 to pay for the solar panel there, which means that I'll never need to worry about battery life. So the 83GTX doesn't have the solar panel, whereas the 85GTX does. Now, as you can see on the box here, it tells you that this is recommended for GCSEs here in the UK and for various other things as well. And it is the calculator that I recommend that you use for the electrical science and principles element of the qualification that you'll be doing. So that is the one that I would suggest you use. It's the one that will be making an increasingly large amount of appearances on my channel, and it's the one that we're going to have a look at today. So you'll still see this one on my channel on my older videos, and it may occasionally make an appearance if I need to do a calculation on screen. It's still very helpful, but I am going to be moving over increasingly to the 85GTX. So let's open it up and have a look at this calculator. I must say it's certainly a improvement in terms of how it looks on the 85GT Plus. You can see there's some information on the back here. You can create the table function, recurring decimals. You've got your trigonometric functions, all of which were available on the previous one, so none of that seems to have changed too much. What is quite interesting, just looking at the back here, I can't see the hyperbolic functions anywhere, so that may be something that I need to dig around for. So that'll be an interesting one. No doubt it is buried in a sub-menu somewhere, but we'll get to that much further down the line. So I've got to see how to get into this thing. So I'll just tear it open. So this one cost me about, I think it was about 10-11 quid off Amazon. Normally a lot of places do back to school sales sort of in August time, and you'll probably be able to pick one up for a little bit cheaper, maybe about 8 quid or something from Asda or something like that. I'll leave a link down below. This isn't a paid kind of plug or anything like that. This is just genuinely the calculator that I would recommend you get. The first challenge, of course, being can you get into it? So I clearly don't want this returning in its original packaging at any stage. There we go. And we're in. And we're in. Now, for the hyper nerdy among us, we've got the little manual there. And that manual I find pretty helpful actually, because there's all kinds of little additional kind of sub features in there that perhaps you've never realized your calculator does. And there's the hyperbolic function, so it is in there. So we'll see if we can find that for later videos. Again, if you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. That's not for the electrical course. That's for if you're looking at the H&C or H&D in engineering or building services. We might look at those in due course. It is fascinating stuff. But yeah, you often find helpful information in here about sort of the screen layout and representations and different things that you can change. So that's that. So we'll go for our very first turning on, which is always very exciting. And of course the satisfying moment. This is not one of those satisfying videos, but here's a little treat for you. Look at that peeling off there. Isn't that beautiful? That was rubbish actually. That didn't come off anything like I thought it would, but never mind. Okay, and then you've just got these little indestructible pieces of tape on the side here that haven't left any residue, which is nice, because there's nothing worse than sticky marks all over your calculator when you start using it for the first time. So just having a look at a side-by-side comparison, you can see that they've kind of changed the shape of it just a little bit. You've got the kind of slightly tapering effect on the GT Plus, whereas on the GTX range it's gone very much back to a rectangular look. You can also get this in a blue colour and a pink colour, so that's also available. I went for the classic look, and it's got this almost carbon fibre printing on there, which no doubt accounts for the fact that it's so light. However, I would say, looking at it closely, that is faux carbon fibre, so I don't think that you're going to be able to drop that and it sustain any, it'll resist any damage. That's going to break just as much as any other plastic, I think. I think that's just texturing on there. So let's power it up. There we go. It turns on, so that's a good first step. Let's do some checks on here. 2 plus 4 gives us 6, so it knows what it's talking about. The square root of 9 is 3, so that's good enough for me. Now I know that the calculator is going to work as intended. Now, one little tip on here that I always like to look at is if I do 1 divided by 3 or something like that, you can see there it tells us that the answer is 1 divided by 3, which is super helpful. So it just turns that into a fraction, which is quite significant because actually one of the first series of videos that we're going to be doing on the maths section for the electrical course is fractions, and we'll see the importance of that when we get to adding resistors in parallel and how critical that is. But here you can see it tells us it as a fraction, which in this case, you know, that's not what I wanted to know. So if I press the SD button, you can see that it's changed it to a decimal, and notice as well, it's got the little dot above the 3 there, indicating that the 3 is recurring. So let's just try that again. 1 divided by 3 is a third. Press the SD button, it goes to 0.3 recurring, and pressing it again shows it in its longer form, so 0.33333333333. Of course, the temptation is to think that it's stopping there, but it's not. That number's carrying on forever and ever because it's a recurring number, as we saw in that mode. Let's have a look at this now. Let's do 1 divided by 7. So you can see there again, pressing the SD button, it tells us that 1 divided by 7 is 1 divided by 7, which is super helpful, or a seventh, again, helping us to understand the relationship between a fraction and what it's actually doing. More on that in the next video. And then if I press the SD button, you can see here, now this used to throw my learners off a little bit. You got 0.1 with the little dot above it, and they used to think, oh, that little dot means that the 1 recurs. So they'd say, all right, that's 0.11111111111114287. But of course, if that number was recurring by itself, then that would indicate that there was nothing coming after it ever, because it literally goes on forever and ever and ever. So if you keep on going down the number, 0.142857, and you'll see there that there's another dot above the 7, which is also that little recurring symbol. And what that means is that that whole chunk of numbers keeps recurring over and over and over. So this would actually go 0.142857, 142857, 142857, and on and on and on. And that's kind of indicated for us. If we press the SD button again, you can see there that it starts to repeat 0.142857, and then we've got the repetition 1, 4, 2. Interestingly, there's a 9 there instead of an 8, but that is because the calculator has rounded this off as accurately as it can. So because that 8 there, the number after it is 5 or above, it means that that gets rounded up to 9, and so they've put a 9 there instead, which is super helpful really. It's trying to give you the most accurate answer it can in the format that you've requested. So some common functions that we may need to use when we're doing our electrical course. We've got the x to the -1 button, which is an absolutely critical one because that helps us when we come to add up resistors in parallel. So please check out my videos on that if you haven't already done so, because x to the -1 actually means whatever x is. So let's put a 3 in there randomly. 3 to the -1 means 1 divided by 3, it means a third. So that's just kind of a useful little thing there for us to remember, that is what we normally call the reciprocal button, which is very, very important when it comes to calculating resistors connected in parallel. And again, I have done a video on that, so if you're not sure what I'm talking about, go and watch that and it'll help you to understand that. We will also need the square root button. That's a very important one for when we're doing our Pythagorean theorem, which is really important for electrical calculations, especially when we start looking at the different kinds of opposition to current flow in a circuit. So if you don't know what impedance is, you are going to need to know what it is, and if you don't know what Pythagoras' theorem is, you are going to need to know what Pythagoras' theorem is. And again, I've already done videos on those things, so you can go and watch those along with those that are going to come up in the following weeks. So that's an important button. And we've also got, really important for electricians, the cosine function. So the trigonometric functions are really important for electrical science and understanding how electricity works, especially when we start talking about AC circuits. But the cosine one is particularly important because it relates very closely to something called power factor, which is an important consideration for making our installations run smoothly and efficiently. And again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, then I have done a series of videos on that. But if you're just starting out on your electrical journey, then you probably don't want to be diving in too deep into that one, because that is the stuff that you'll be looking at a little bit further down the line in year 2 or possibly even 3, depending on how the college structures your course. So that's the calculator and some common functions. This is definitely something that I would recommend you get. Another really important one is the times 10 to the x button, or the exponent function. That helps us to put very, very large numbers or very, very small numbers into our calculators very simply, and helps us to be nice and accurate. And again, there'll be videos coming up on multiples and submultiples. So for example, if we want to express 15 kilometers, that's 15,000 meters, but instead of putting all those zeros on, we can just do times 10 to the power of 3, and that means the same as 15,000, as you can see there. So it's just a simplified way of putting this into our calculations. And again, very, very important for electrical things, especially when we start going the other way and looking at minus values here. So for example, if I do 30 times 10 to the -3, this will reveal a number that is really important to us as electricians, especially when we're wading our way through the rules and regulations surrounding RCDs in different circuits here in the UK, because that is a value of what we call 30 milliamps. So that times 10 to the -3 means move the decimal point 3 places to the left. So you can see there it's gone to that point there, and that is the value of residual current that will trip out a typical RCD in this country. So if you're starting out in your electrical journey and you didn't realise that you were going to have to do a lot of maths, then you're going to have to do a lot of maths, and I really hope that the videos that I'm going to produce for you will help. And if there's any particular subject that you want clarifying or further information on, then please don't hesitate to mention it in the comments and let me know what you'd like a video on. So if you've made it to the end of this video, well done. It's not the most scintillating content, but it's a very important one. It explains why you'll be seeing this calculator instead of this calculator in my future videos, and also just some basic functions that you'll need as you make progress with your electrical studies. So thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for more, and if you have got this this far in the video, you're obviously very committed, so please subscribe to the channel, hit a like on this video, and if you're in a room full of classmates who haven't heard about my channel and you're doing electrical installation courses, then please let them know, because I hope it will be very helpful for them and will help them with their electrical studies. So I'm going to pop that down, and I'm going to sign off by saying thank you very much for watching.